Hi everyone, Lee Shaw here. This is a bit of a different one for me. So if you would like to see how I take this client from super blonde to a brunette, then stick around. It's going to be a full tutorial talking everything about formulas and my process and why I did it and things that I would actually do differently as well. So I've done this guest hair once before, and she has been very, very heavily highlighted over the years. She's had this colour for 20 years and she is ready for a change. So this is how I approach this, and I'll explain the reasons why. I decided to go with like a braided balayage technique, but slightly differently. So I went around the hairline, as you just saw, sectioning out everything that I wanted to keep as lightness around the face. Each section, I've done it, I'm very simple when it comes to my sectioning, 4 quadrants, and I go through each section thinking about how the hair is going to fall. So on this section, I wanted quite a lot because this is going to be like the lowest point of her hairline. So I weaved out the top, took that back, that's going to be the dark, and that bigger bit is actually the front blonde area. For the rest of it, I did it the other way round, but I just wanted that bit to be like a pop of blonde around the front. So you'll see as I go through, I'm taking fairly standard weaved sections, separating the two areas and thinking about whether I want the underneath, which is more hair, as the dark, or the top, which is less hair, as the dark. And in this case, it was the less hair that I wanted as the lighter areas pushed to the front. I'm pretty sure I did this all the way up now from the top. There was only 2 sections that I did it the other way around. The biggest thing is to constantly keep in mind about how much lightness you're wanting to see. What you leave out is just as important as what you're going to colour. Also, when I'm doing these sorts of transformations, I tend to always leave the top layer. I want that dark as like a veil coming over all of the lightness that is left. And it looks like I'm leaving quite a lot, but you will see at the end that actually where it kind of blends in, it doesn't look like a huge amount at the end of the transformation. So I clip this out of the way, and now I know that I've got my lightness that I'm keeping and the dark behind it. It's the same up the back. I literally take sections about 1 inch wide, and again thinking about exactly what I want left. So weaving out some lightness and then separating that, and these side bits, as you can see here, are going to be the light, and everything underneath and down the middle is going to be painted dark. I find this like a really simple and easy way to be able to visualize exactly how much I need and how much is going to be left. The weaves internally, I do a little bit bigger. Again, making sure that when I separate these in half that they are even, because I don't want more lightness on one side than the other. I want to keep it as even as I can going through, just as if I was doing it with foils and adding lowlights in. You can see really well here actually how much like regrowth she has, and she's pretty dark naturally. She's a level 6, borderline 5 in some areas, but generally a level 6. And she is just so ready to embrace a more natural look. The maintenance is huge on her hair, and she just wants an easier life. Why not? So I continue working all the way up to the crown. As I get a little bit higher, my weaves get a little bit smaller. I want a little bit finer and softer the further up I get. Now she has a huge amount of hair. This is actually a really quick technique, but she does have a lot of hair. So once that is all done, everything that's going to be kept light and that I want to keep light, I pull to the sides, I keep them right out of the way, and I braid it down just to keep it nice and clean. And there I can see really clearly how much dark I'm going to be adding into this hair. So we are taking Georgia darker today. So on her roots, I'm going to do 8N in Lumishine DD cream, which is a pre-pigmented dimensional deposit cream, and 6N, making a 7. This will go slightly darker than a 7, hence why I'm using the equivalent of a 7. And this is mixed with 5 and then through her ends I'm going to pre-pigment it with 8NC. She is very blonde, and I want a little bit of gold in there as well, so I'm going to do, actually no I'm not, I'm going to do 7NC, 7NC and 9G again with 5 So the DD creams are by Joico and they have a pre-pigment in them. I know that I'm going to be touching onto the blonde that's just below the regrowth, so I want to make sure that that doesn't go flat or khaki. The colour through the ends is a no-lift demi-liquid. So huge tip, and I've learnt this from mistakes. All of those braided areas, I wrap them really tightly in foil. I've tried it with cling film, I've tried it with other things, but foil for me works the best because when we're at the basin, I can then manipulate it like wire and put it out the way and clear when I'm rinsing. It is the best tip, and try it, you will use it all the time. So here I am anyway, going through painting on my root colour, which was the DD cream that we just mixed. And like I said, I'm going to be going slightly over that band where the regrowth joins the blonde. So this is going to ensure that it doesn't go flat and it doesn't go khaki because it has got that bit of pre-pigment in. I start at the back of the head and I work all the way through. When I got to the area where I braided, and I've done this lots of times before, but I think this hair is particularly thick. In hindsight, I either wish I had held the braids slightly up so the over direction wasn't so much, or maybe even braided each side in 2, just because when it got to this bit, it was tricky pushing the product into that braided area at the top. Or maybe I should have just left the braids a little bit looser at the top. That probably would have helped too, but you know, you live and learn, and these things are there to learn from, and that is definitely something when I'm doing particularly thick hair like this that I will maybe try something a little bit different in future. But you know, it worked, it was just trickier. Continue applying this all the way to the front. So these DD creams, they actually need about 20 minutes. So as I said, this was mixed up as a level 7. This is going to end up being on the head for about 35 minutes. So I need to make sure that it's not going to go too deep. She does have a few little sparkles, and with the DDs, you can leave them for 35 minutes to cover them. I do find that they will go slightly darker if left on for that amount of time. So I take that into account when I'm formulating. Here I am going through now, putting the pre-pigment liquid colour, which is also Lumishine, Joico Lumishine Demi-Liquid, and taking it from that join area where I put the root colour on, all the way through. Now this will be, let's try that again, lost my train of thought. This will be taken through everything that was left out of the braids. So the thing about this, taking hair from this light to this dark, you have to pre-pigment. Now I said the DD creams are pre-pigmented, and they are. You can use them, and I do use them for dropping down without having to pre-pigment. However, her hair is so porous, and I know this because it's when I previously lightened her hair and the toner I used, it sucked up so fast. I know how porous her hair is. It's also naturally really curly, so that adds to the porosity as well. And by adding in this pre-pigment, it's going to stop the colour grabbing and going flat, and that still would have happened even if I had used a DD. You used to be able to, they had a copper DD, which was amazing. It unfortunately got discontinued, which if I still had that to play with, maybe I would have formulated slightly differently and not had to do this section. But just for peace of mind and for knowing that it's going to turn out how I want it, this was just the best option. So mixing up the end colour now, that's going to go over the pre-pigment. This was 8NA and 6N, again making it a level 7. The NA is just going to combat some of that warmth that I've just put into it, and the end is just going to keep it nice and rich. These are beautiful colours. They give a huge amount of shine, and because they have that pre-pigment in, I never have to worry about it going too flat, unless I am dropping from a 10 to a 3, which I've used it for previously, and I thought I'd try it without pre-pigmented, and let's just say it didn't quite go to plan. So the copper that I had applied here, I left to sit in the hair while I went and mixed everything else up. It was on for about 10 minutes, so it started to dry out a little bit. And I've gone straight over the top. I haven't rinsed it because the DD Cream is an alkaline-based demi-permanent colour, which means its pH isn't as high as a permanent colour, but it has some alkaline in it to swell the cuticle, to be able to penetrate the colour further inside and give it that like rich, deep coverage, much more so than a demi-liquid formula. And because of this, it allows me to be able to go straight over the top without having to rinse, which saves time, and a huge amount of time. And it does create a really, really rich glossy colour, which you will see at the end. So it's really important when you're going straight over a pre-pigment that you fully saturate every section. You don't want any warm areas coming through at the end, or any discrepancies in colour. So once this was all on, I left this to develop for 20 minutes. I forgot to film the rinse off and the toning, which is very annoying, but I toned it initially with 8VG and 8G. I decided it wasn't quite warm enough on the blondes that I wanted it to be, so I went back in with 8NC and a bit of 9G, and this was the result. It was beautiful. She loved it. It was shiny, glossy, healthy, and I hope you like it. If you do, subscribe and see you next time.